Hello, welcome back to my haunted library. It's Regina. Happy New Year. We're in a whole new decade. It's very exciting. And I always really loved New Year. It's kind of my favorite part of the Christmas holiday. And I've said this before, and it's true. And it might sound a little bit of like a humbug, but really my favorite part of the whole Christmas holiday is dragging the Christmas tree out to the curb, because to me that signifies a clean sweep. Now I am a Virgo, so that might have something to do with it, but I just love just starting over again. So I always love to do New Year's resolutions. Sometimes I don't keep them. Sometimes I do. So I thought I would share with you some of my reading resolutions for 2020, which I can't believe it's 2020. I mean, I don't know, time flies when you're having fun. So let's see what I came up with. The one thing I do want to do is read more fantasy. Now, the reason I want to read more fantasy is when I actually get down and read it, I love it. So last year, I did started working on the Robert Jordan Wheel of Time series. Jason at Jason's Weird Reads had a very ambitious read along, like read one of those books a month. So I did read the first two books in the Wheel of Time. I loved them, and then I just kind of got behind. But I did start reading The Dragon Reborn. So when I read fantasy, one thing that does help me with just understanding what's going on, because there's usually a lot of characters, is to listen to the audiobooks while I read. So I started listening to the audiobook of Book 3, The Dragon Reborn, while I'm reading it. I did the same with A Feast for Crows. I just finished that. All 30 hours of the audiobook I listened to and kind of read along, like not at the same time, but I would read some of the book and then listen and kind of go back and forth or move ahead with one and then catch up. I felt like it really is helpful, especially with fantasy, which can be so involved, you know. So, but I have to say, I have kind of put this aside a little bit because of The Witcher. I am in love with the leading man. Can I just say that right off the bat? Just putting that out there. I would watch that show just for him, even if it were like the worst thing in the world. But it's not. It's great. It's one of those shows I'm up to episode 4, and I already know I'm going to go back and watch the whole thing again. I'm loving the show. So I did already have the book on my shelf, and I had an audiobook credit, and I bought the audiobook, so I've been listening to it, and I'm also reading it. I'm about 100 pages in. Now, it's very different than the television series, which anyone reading the books and watching the series would know. As far as different, the characters are the same, but it's like a different time sequence. And I really love the way it's, the first book is introduced with the bard Dandelion singing about The Witcher and all the different characters. It's great. I'm finding it very accessible, easy to follow, easy to understand. Even though it's been translated from Polish to English, it's done really well. So I highly recommend, if you're looking to get into fantasy, if you haven't read any fantasy books for a while, I would highly recommend The Witcher. Now, I have noticed that it hasn't gotten great reviews, which to me is a little confusing. There seems to be a large gap between the audience reviewers, which really love the series, and the print reviewers, like your traditional media reviewers, really not into it. Maybe they just don't like fantasy or think it's dumb or whatever, but if you love fantasy, definitely check out The Witcher. It's a great, great show. Anyway, I went off on a tangent, but so one of my resolutions is to read more fantasy. So I'm going to keep plugging away at this series, and it's very long, so I don't know how far I'm going to get, but I am enjoying it. I'm taking the pressure off myself with that. I have one more of the Game of Thrones series, and I will do that book too. So I probably will end up reading all of The Witcher because I'm so into it. Robert Jordan, finishing up Game of Thrones. It's probably enough for a while. But yeah, that's one of my goals. So, but hopefully this won't completely turn into a fantasy channel. All right, next. Oh, continue with my Clive Barker reading list. I just finished reading The Damnation Game, which was Barker's first full-length novel. I absolutely loved it. I'm like, it's time to get back on the meat train. So I will continue with Barker. So my next resolution is to read more of my paperbacks from hell. I have an incredible collection on my shelf, and I haven't read, even close to all of them. So I had a little conversation with Matilda. She said she's going to keep up with it now. She said that same thing last year, and she fell behind, but she's going to try to read a book a week and do a review. That's her resolution. So we'll see how she does with it. Okay, another resolution is read and review the books people send me. I want you guys to know, if you sent me a book, I have not forgotten. I'm just a little slow in getting them all finished. So if you want to keep sending me a book, please do. Just know it may be a few months. If I don't do a review on like a video review, I always will do a Goodreads review. Now, I did this year switch over my Goodreads account, kind of split it. So not all of my reviews are up there yet. Still working on that. But yeah, so that's just, I do read them. And I know where they are on my shelf. So I will get to them, I promise. So those are my reading resolutions. If you have any that you'd like to share, please put them in the comments below. And I will see you next time in my haunted library. Bye.